ก็หวังว่าทุกคนจะอยู่จนจบเซสชันนะคะแล้วก็ตั้งใจเรียนเพื่อเอาทิปส์แล้วก็ทริคดีๆในการไปเพิ่มคะแนน IELTS ให้นะคะขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you. Next, we also have my colleague from Philippines. We have Patrick. Hi, Patrick.
Hi, Miss Lilith. So, good evening, good afternoon, or good morning to every one of you. Nasaan man kayo. And I would like to welcome you to this IELTS writing webinar. And we hope now you could be able to learn more to our IELTS experts na i-introduce later on. So sa mga Pinoy dyan, sit back and relax. And you know the drill. Good luck and enjoy this webinar. Thank you.
Maraming salamat. So, are you guys excited? So, this writing workshop is an official support for all of you who will take or who are planning to take their IELTS test anytime, maybe from tomorrow or even in the next few years, be it academic or general training. So this session is aiming to guide you in understanding the writing questions and provide ways to organize your answers in a more coherent manner. So before we get started, I would like to introduce our IELTS expert. She is a returning IELTS expert and she has been an IELTS teacher and trainer for more than a decade. Armed with an in-depth understanding of IELTS, she has helped hundreds of people across Asia to prepare well for it. She enjoys sharing tips and strategies to help test takers like you to reach the band score you guys need. As she will be guiding you through our IELTS writing skill today, do stay with us until the end of the workshop. You will be given a chance to personally ask your question via our live Q&A, of course, as long as we still have time on that. But however, whatever questions you have, any burning questions you have, please feel free to write it in our chat box or in the Q&A section or in the Q&A box, and we will answer later on. So without further ado, I'd like you all to join me in welcoming back our IELTS expert today, Jacqueline Fisher. Hi, Jacqueline.
Hi, Lilette. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. So nice to be with you this evening. And I'm very happy to see in the chat box someone said they're excited. It's very good that you're excited about talking about IELTS writing. That makes me feel happy as well. So tonight is all about the writing test. Yeah, so we know IELTS is called the IELTS exam, but it's actually 4 tests. So tonight we're really focusing on the writing, which is the one that most people feel nervous about usually. So hopefully I'll, cover all your questions and give you lots of tips that I hope you find useful. So just to get started, where are you joining us from? I'm in Singapore and with Lilette. And then of course we've got our other moderators from around the region, but where are all of you? Do you want to let me know in the chat? Myanmar, oh, that's nice. Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, oh, that's great. So really from across the region. That's why one upside of the pandemic is that we get to connect in this way, which we never used to do before. Or someone from Iran in the USA. Now that's really far away. Welcome. It's very nice to have you all here. So yeah, so tonight, as I said, we're getting into the writing test. So as always, this is your webinar. So quite a few people from Singapore. Very good. Nice to know. Oh, someone's Independence Day. Is that in Philippines? Well, happy Independence Day. We just had our Singapore National Day recently too. So this is your webinar, so feel free to ask me questions in the chat. And if you put them in the Q&A box, our other co-moderators will answer them as well. Oh, someone from Russia. Gosh, we're very international this evening, aren't we? So tonight we're going to explore the writing test. Oh, it's Indonesia, not Philippines. I'm sorry, Indonesia. How wonderful. Happy Independence Day to everyone in Indonesia. Yeah, so just before we get started, I was wanting to find out a bit more about all of you. So I'm just wondering if the first poll is ready or not. Yeah, okay, great. Could you let me know? I'm just want to know a bit about your background. But don't worry, in this writing session, we'll cover both general and academic tests. So whichever one you're doing, we will talk about it. So don't worry about that. And if you don't know yet, that's also fine. Yeah, so just wanting to know if you've done the test before, what's the minimum score you need? Of course, we all want the highest possible, but what's the minimum? And then, oh, we have quite a lot more people doing academic, a great majority, but don't worry, general people, we will still talk about the general test. So don't worry, you won't be left out. And most of you have not taken the test before. Okay, good. But if you have, and you have a question, let me know. And yeah, most people need between a 7 and 8 or a 6 to 7. Okay, that's good to know. I'm just going to end the poll. Good. So great. Thank you for sharing that with me. That's really helpful. So I just know a bit about you. All right, the writing test. So it is usually the one that most people are concerned more about, and we'll explore all the aspects of the writing test this evening. So can you let me know what you already know? So how long is this writing test? And how many things do you have to do? How many tasks do you do in this writing test? It's 1 hour, that's right. And how many things do you do? 2 tasks, yes. So whether you're doing academic or general, you do 2 different tasks. And we're going to talk about that soon, now. So let's get into it. All right, so just to quickly go through what it is that you do. If you're doing academic, your task 1 is that you describe something with words. Could be a graph, could be a chart, could be a table. And then your task 2 is that you have to write an essay. And then if you're doing general, your task 1 is a bit unusual. You're going to write a letter. And then your task 2 is also an essay. So what's the difference between academic and general? It's just the topics. The topics are a bit more, maybe you'd say complex for the academic. Yeah, just a little bit more. Because the academic test is designed for people who want to study at an English-speaking educational institution. So something like a uni or a college. Yeah, so they want your English level to be up to that standard. All right, so yeah, can you let me know also in the chat, which test are you thinking of doing? Nowadays we can have a choice, you can do it on computer or you can do it the traditional way, paper-based. So I see a lot of computers, but some paper. Yeah, so if you don't know right now, also fine, don't have to decide now, but you do have to decide before you do it. What's the difference? It's the same content, exactly the same. But if you get your results faster with the computer test, 3 to 5 days versus about 13 days for paper-based, and often you can do it more often. Yeah, up to in some countries it's every day. Yeah, so yeah, so it really depends on you. People always ask me which one's easier, which one's better. It's the same test, but it depends on your skills. So you have to remember that if you choose computer delivered, you do the reading, the listening, and the writing test all on the computer. So you have to be very comfortable reading on the screen. You have to be comfortable typing. You have to be comfortable using a mouse and navigating on the computer. So if all of those things, you don't like any of that, then choose paper-based, the traditional way. But do remember, for paper-based, you have to write with a pencil. So most of us are not used to writing longhand anymore. Yeah, so you can't mix and match. It's one or the other. Okay, but it's the same test. So people do ask me usually which one I do. I'd probably pick paper-based just because of my generation. I like reading on hard copy better. And yeah, so that would be me. But, you know, for younger people who are really comfortable on computer, then a lot of them will choose computer-based. Yes, and in some countries you have to do computer. It really depends. Okay, so let's start talking more about the writing. Now, when the examiners look at your writing, they only care about 4 things. And your penmanship, how neat it is, that's not one of them. So as long as they can read it, it doesn't matter if it's messy. Yeah, but what are the 4 things that the examiners look at? Can you let me know in the chat? Just 4 things. Your vocab, yes, that's one of them. Your grammar, yes, that's right. Your task achievement, yes. Did you answer the question? And one more, your coherence and cohesion. Yeah, you've got them all. Very good. But it's really important to remember these 4 because this is what the examiners are looking at. So tonight we'll keep thinking about these 4 things. So first one is what we call task achievement or task response. This basically means, did you answer the question? Did you stay on the topic? Did you follow the instructions? And did you have good reasons? Or did you expand nicely? Yeah, so that's the first one. Next one is cohesion and coherence. Yeah, so cohesion and coherence has these 2 parts. So what that basically means is, does it flow smoothly? Yeah, can the examiner follow your writing, the logic of it? So one big tip, please use paragraphs. You must use paragraphs or you get a low score. And each paragraph, it must be clear what the paragraph is about. And then also linking words are important to guide the reader through. So things like, first of all, secondly, in addition, conversely, however, yeah, in conclusion, all these linking words are very helpful, yeah, for this cohesion and coherence. The next one, and I see a question about spellings, that's going to come under here. So next one is your vocab. They call it lexical resource, but it refers to your vocabulary. So if you're wanting a 7 or more, you need to use some more unusual words, and they must be correct. So, you know, the examiners see a lot of words like good, bad, nice. Those words are a bit simple. So if you want 7 or higher, you have to have more unusual words, but they also must be correct. Yeah, and then under your Lexis also comes spelling. So spelling matters. And bad news, even on the computer test, there's no spell check and there's no grammar check. So we have to work on our spelling because many of us have become a bit sloppy with our spelling, haven't we, over the years? Yeah. Okay, so spelling matters. Now, last one that they look at, as some of you said, is your grammar. Yeah, so the grammar matters, and it has 2 parts here. So one part is accurate. So if you want 7, probably about 70 to 75% accurate, and then an 8, 80 to 85%. But it's not just accurate. So, you know, because I can say a sentence like, I like Singapore, it is humid. Yeah, so those 2 sentences are correct, but they're very simple in terms of grammar. But if I combine them, although I like Singapore, it tends to be very humid. Oh, already that's a better sentence. One longer sentence with 2 parts. Yeah, so we want these more complex sentences. How do you do that? With things like although, however, whereas, while, if. Yeah, all of these make your sentences more complex, which is what we want if you want a higher score for your grammar. Yeah, so we've got to keep thinking of these 4 things because they're each worth equal amount. They're each marked out of 9. So to get your 7, you need to get a 7 for answering the question, 7 for the structure, 7 for the vocab, and 7 for the grammar. Also under the grammar comes your punctuation. So don't forget full stops, capital letters, commas. These all matter. Yeah. Okay, so please, we're going to keep thinking about these 4 as we look at the writing this evening. Okay, so let's start with general task 1. So if you're doing academic, which is I know is a lot of you, you can have a little chillax for about maybe 15 minutes. Yeah, so go grab a drink and a snack, but please come back in about 15 minutes and we'll talk about your task 1. But right now, let's talk about general task 1, which I know is not so many of you. Okay, so general people, can you remind me, what are you doing for your task 1 general? You're writing a letter, that's right. Now, how many words and how long should you spend? It's 150 words minimum. You can write more, but a minimum 150 and 20 minutes. That's right. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you get your letter. It's always laid out like this. It tells you 20 minutes, 150. It always tells you how to start. So in this one, dear sir or madam. So we just follow that. Don't change it. Dear sir or madam. Let's have a look. It's always laid out like this. So first of all is the description. There have been some problems with public transport in your area recently. Then there's what you have to do, your task. Write a letter to the manager of the public transport company. In your letter, and these are the subtasks. How many bullet points are there? How many bullet points? 3. There are always 3. So we have to read them very carefully. Describe the problems. This S is important. Okay, is it okay to talk about one problem? No, you have to think of more than one problem. That's right. Explain how the problems are affecting the public. So these more than one problem, how's it affecting people? Suggest what changes, again, plural, could be made. So these are our jobs and we must follow all these bullets. Okay, so when we get our topic, we have to think about 3 things before we write. First of all, we look at how we start and who we are writing to. Dear sir or madam, write a letter to the manager. This will give us our tone. So do we know this person? No, right? And they're the manager. So what should our tone be for this letter? What should our, more formal, that's right, more formal, exactly. So we always work out the tone. Next job, work out why we are writing this letter. Now this will be up here, the overall purpose. It's always at the top. There have been some problems with public transport in your area recently. So when we work out the purpose, we usually say it with a to. So why are we writing? To do what? To raise problems with public transport, something like that. So usually we can state the purpose with a to. Okay, so there's a question about, yeah, we're not really complaining. We're just like raising some problems maybe. Yeah. And then we always must look at these 3 bullets very carefully and make sure that if there's any plurals, and sometimes there's an and, so be really careful about that. Okay, good. So these are our 3 jobs before we write. Work out the purpose, which is always at the top there. Look at the bullet points carefully and think about the tone. Okay, so once we've done that, we can start writing. So let's look at a model. So remember they told us to start dear sir or madam, so we just do that. First paragraph should have the purpose in it. Yeah, so can you see the purpose there? It's usually with a to. I am writing to draw your attention to recent problems with public transport in our suburb. So in the first paragraph, we always put the purpose, but it's nice to start with a little bit of background. So say who you are, not your name. You don't need your name because it's at the end. Just say who you are, a bit of context. So I am a resident of Newtown and I am writing to draw your attention. So this is nice for the first paragraph, a bit of background and the purpose. Next paragraph is the first bullet point, which was discuss the problems, more than one problem. Can you see that we've used linking words to introduce the problems? Remember, linking words are important for cohesion and coherence. Can you spot the 2 linking words you want to put in the chat? Furthermore is 1, and briefly, that's right. So briefly, the roadworks along Hill Road have led to long delays in bus services. That's the first problem, long delays. Furthermore, the new weekend bus timetable has dramatically reduced the frequency of buses. Second problem. Yeah, so notice how the problems must sound real. Don't make up something ridiculous like there are ghosts on the bus. I mean, you know, maybe it's very creative, but it won't get you a good mark. It needs to be real, like you would really send this letter in Canada or New Zealand. Yeah, okay, so that's our first bullet point. So 2 problems. Next paragraph, remember the second bullet point, we had to talk about the effect on the public. It's good to start with a topic sentence. What is that? It tells us what the paragraph is about. The effect of these actions becomes very obvious during peak hours. So that's what we want, the effect on the public. In weekdays and busy shopping hours on Saturday mornings, there's a high level of public concern. Public transport users find it takes 20 minutes more to travel the length of the road. So that's one effect. As well, another linker, shoppers who often travel by bus on Saturday mornings to shop in Newtown find it's not worth the trouble, leading to a drastic downturn in retail trade. Yeah, so that's the second effect with a linker. Now there's some nice vocabulary in this paragraph. Remember, the examiners are looking at your vocabulary. You want it to sound real, but you want it to be good, impressive vocabulary. Can you spot some nice phrases in this paragraph? There's one in the second last line that's rather nice. Yeah, drastic downturn, even better. Drastic downturn, very nice. It sounds good together. This is what we call collocation, words that sound nice together. And also up here, high level of public concern. Like you could say, oh, people are upset, but this sounds more impressive, doesn't it? There's a high level of public concern, but still sounds real, not worth the trouble. Yeah, this is a nice phrase also. Good. Now remember, the last bullet point is the suggestions. So again, we use linking words. May I suggest buses be rerouted along Great East Road until roadworks are complete? I would also, so using a linker to introduce the second suggestion, I would also recommend a return to the old weekend bus timetable. I'm sure these steps will be warmly welcomed by both users of public transport and local shopkeepers. That's the third bullet point. Then the last paragraph, we just point to the next step. What's next? I look forward to hearing from you regarding my suggestions. Then we sign off because it's a letter. So dear sir or madam, the correct sign off is yours faithfully. And then don't forget the name because it's a letter. So you put the name at the bottom. And that's really how we do the letter. So it's usually 5 paragraphs like that. The purpose, and then bullet point 1, bullet point 2, bullet point 3, point to the future, and sign off. That's it. So really the letter is not that difficult to do. And remember, you want to do it within 20 minutes. Now be careful that you cover all the bullet points. If you've just left out the suggestions, you forgot, this would pull your task achievement down to 4, very low. It would affect your score. And then you've got to think about the tone. Make sure the tone is the same. So this one is all kind of more formal. Yeah, so we keep the correct tone. You wouldn't suddenly switch and say, see ya, honey, or something like that. It would be really weird with the tone and it would affect your score. Yeah, so that if your tone is very mixed up, then you will get a 5. So you have to keep the correct tone. Yeah, so this is really the steps for the letter. We always look for the purpose, look who you're writing to get the tone, get the right tone. Make sure you look at the bullet points carefully so we cover them, and usually 5 paragraphs. So let's just practice a little bit working out the purpose. Sometimes it takes a bit of practice. So if they said this, if the task was you want your friend to come to your partner's surprise birthday party, what's our purpose here? To do what? To invite someone. That's right. Now, how about this one? You recently stayed in a hotel and the service was most unsatisfactory. Yeah, maybe it's to complain or to express disappointment. Yeah, just be careful with complaining because it's got to sound real. So don't go crazy over the top. Because would you really send a letter that's like really rude? You wouldn't. You still have to be polite, even if you're complaining. Now, the other thing we have to think about is the tone. So we remember this one about inviting someone to the surprise party? What do you think about this tone? Dear Anne, I request the pleasure of your attendance at the birthday party that I will host for my longtime partner. I would very much appreciate it if you could keep this invitation a secret, as it will be a surprise party. What do you think about this tone? Is it okay? Yes, Kira, it's too formal. This would be all right if it were a very formal occasion, like, you know, maybe like a 60th wedding anniversary or something. But this is just a surprise party. It's too formal. So when it's an informal letter, sometimes you have to write an informal letter. It's actually a little bit harder to write because we wouldn't send a letter, would we? We'd send a WhatsApp. But the secret when you get an informal one is make it sound like you're talking, yeah, but use full sentences. So something like this. Dear Anne, I hope all is well. I'm not sure if you remember, but Danny's big birthday party is around the corner. Yes, he's going to hit the big 40. He says he doesn't want to party, but that's too bad because I'm hoping you'll be part of a super secret surprise bash I'm organizing for him. Can you see the difference? It sounds like someone's talking. And notice these contractions. I'm, he's. This is fine in an informal letter. Yeah, so make sure the tone is correct. Now, what about this tone for the complaint? I'm very sorry about this, but I really do have to complain about the service I received at your hotel last week. Is that okay? You think it's okay? I think that this is not because it's too apologetic. Why would you apologize when you have received bad service? It sounds strange. This one, now notice the difference. I'm writing to express my disappointment about the service I received during my stay at your hotel last week. Can you feel the difference? This is quite detached. It's quite formal, no emotion, but expressing disappointment. This is a much better tone. Okay, so be careful with the tone. All right, so sometimes we don't have a formal letter. Sometimes you'll get this. So let's do our 3 things again. So I'll just read this out to you first. You're going on holiday and would like to ask a friend to look after your house. Write a letter to your friend. In your letter, explain the situation, tell your friend what needs to be done while you're away, arrange to meet your friend. Yeah, so begin your letter ... Oh, so what do? Don't change it. It's still dear, but you just make up a name. So dear Susie, whatever. Now, write a letter to your friend. So what's our tone? What's our tone going to be? Informal, that's right. So yeah. Now, what's our purpose? Why are we writing? It's up the top. You're going on holiday and would like to ask a friend to look after your house. Why are we writing? To ask for help. That's right. Yep. To request, to ask for a favor. Yep. All right. So what are our bullets? Explain, tell your friend what needs to be done, arrange. So quite straightforward. All right. Let's have a look at the model. So dear Jane, cheers. So the sign off needs to match. So you wouldn't put yours sincerely. Okay. It's got to be informal. So if you don't like cheers, it's very Australian like me. So you could do something like bye for now, see you soon, lots of love. All of those are fine. Now, the purpose. If I wrote, dear Jane, I am writing to ask you for a favor. How would you feel if your friend wrote to you like that? It's too blunt, right? You'd be like, whoa, man, too blunt. So when it's an informal letter, yeah, it's too straightforward. You have to build up to the purpose. Okay, something like this. Dear Jane, how is everything? I hope you're having a great week. As you know, I'm heading off to England next Monday on holiday for next Monday for 3 glorious weeks. I'm wondering if you might be free to do me a huge favor while I'm away. See, build up to the purpose and kind of go around it gently. Don't be too blunt in an informal letter. I'd be super grateful if you could look after the house. I really need to get away, blah, blah, blah. Okay, then the next one, there isn't much to do. It'd be fantastic if you could feed my cat. Now notice the grammar. We're trying to use a bit more complicated grammar. So if, could, while, a while sentence, while you're at the house, it would also be wonderful if you could check my plants and give them a drink if they're looking droopy or parched. So some interesting vocabulary, but it sounds real. Would you be free to meet on Wednesday? So another would. Yeah. And then the last paragraph, pointing to the next step. Could you give me a call to let me know if this won't be too much of a hassle? It'll be great to see you. So you notice it sounds like the person's talking. We use these contractions. Yeah. So that's how you do an informal letter. Okay, so just some tips. Make sure you do those 3 steps. Yeah, look for the tone, the purpose, and the bullets. Now check the bullets carefully. Sometimes they have an and, like this and that. So be careful. Check the plurals in the bullets, like problems. The purpose should be in the first paragraph. The letter usually has 5 paragraphs. The last paragraph, we point to the future. Yeah, so make sure the tone is correct, formal or informal, and the language you use is important, and it's the same. So try not to copy the words in the task. Try to use synonyms, words that mean the same thing but are different words, to show a range of vocab. Yeah, and just start as they tell you. So dear, or dear sir or madam. No need for your address. You just start dear, just like that. And then make sure the opening and the closing match the same tone. Yeah. So that's your letter. So it's actually not that difficult. I think we have a little review for your task 1. Yes, general. So see if you can answer these review questions. And let me know if you have any questions about your task 1 general. You really don't have such a hard job, honestly speaking. So which 3 things must you think about for general? Can you look at the last screenshot, please? Hold on. I can't. Oh dear, I'm having trouble going back. Oh, it's not letting me go back. I'm sorry. Oh, hang on. There you go. All right, I'm just going to stop the share. Okay, so which 3 things do you have to think about for general task 1? Your purpose, your tone, and cover all the bullets. That's right. So don't worry about the spelling. You can use American or British. Both are correct. Long sentences are, if you can use long sentences and they're correct, well, that's fine. But it's more important to do these 3. Purpose, tone, and cover all the bullets. Is it okay to use texting language like lol? No, okay? In the IELTS writing, you must use proper, like, not proper, but like you must use full words. Don't use abbreviations and texting language, yeah? It's fine if the letter doesn't sound realistic as long as I use lots of impressive vocab. Yeah, this is false. It should sound real. If you can use some good vocab like drastic downturn, that's really good, but it should sound real, like you would really send it. In an informal letter, you can use contractions, yes, so don't, can't, isn't. In a more formal letter, you should use really formal phrases. No, don't do that. Your writing should sound modern and professional, not old-fashioned and very fancy. Yeah, like you would really send the letter. Okay, so just make it sound real. So there's a question whether you're more likely to get formal or informal. I think formal comes up a bit more, but it's really just luck which one you get. So it's better to know how to do both of them. Okay, good. So let's move on. Now, general, you can go have a drink and a snack and a rest for about 15-20 minutes. And I'm going to talk task 1 academic, task 1 academic. Okay, and then come back, please, because then we're going to talk about task 2, which is more important. All right, so task 1 academic. What are you doing? Can you remind me how many words, how many minutes? You should spend about 20 minutes. Yeah, 150 words. That's right. What are you actually doing for your task 1? It's a report. Yep. What kind of report? Describing something. Yes. Okay, good. So let's get into this. So I just have to tell you that your task 1 is not as easy as general. It takes a little bit of time to learn how to do it. So be patient with yourself. First, you may not be able to do it in 20 minutes. It's okay. Learn how to do it properly and then speed up, okay? All right, so your job is you take something that is visual and you describe it with words. So visuals into words, yeah? So it's 20 minutes max and you've got to write at least 150 words. So sometimes you get two things like this. Don't worry, we're still just going to describe each one, okay? So sometimes you also get a graph. Graph is probably the most common. All right, so let's have a look. So remember, you only have 20 minutes, so you need a quick way to do it. So first we just read what we're dealing with. The chart shows the number of Japanese tourists traveling abroad between 1985 and 1995 and Australia's share of the Japanese tourist market. Summarize the information, select and report the main features, and make comparisons. This part is always the same. We have to summarize, pull out the important information, and compare. It's always our job. All right, so when I get this, I always ask myself some questions. So first we read what it was about. So I check the time. So is this to do with the present or the past? This one, between 1985 and 1995. Yeah, so I always just check. So this one's past. Often they're past, but not always. Okay, now I need to have a quick look at these and understand what's going on. Pull out the main features before I write. So this first one, Japanese tourists traveling abroad. Always look at the vertical axis, number millions. So be careful, this is not 246, it's 2 million, isn't it? And then here are the years. Now I ask myself some questions so that I can get the main trends. First question, overall, is it going up or is it going down? Up or down? Up, yep, overall it's up. That's right. Now I look at certain points. I always look at the start. A good word to know is approximately. Okay, so in 1985, how many Japanese tourists were traveling abroad approximately at the start? Approximately, not 5, but 5 million. Yeah, be careful, not just 5 tourists. Now, at the end, 1995, we always look at the start and we look at the end. How many? Approximately 15 million. Okay, good. Now, where is the peak? Which year is the highest point here? 1995, that's right. So we always look at the peak as well, but in this case, the peak is the end. Now, when the trend is the same, like gradually increasing here, we don't need to describe each year. In fact, you should not do that because it's boring and it's the same trend. But you need to describe how it's increasing here. But how is it increasing? Is it rapidly increasing or what? How would you describe it? It's important to describe. Gradually? Yeah, so we have like 5 years and it went from 5, it doubled. So I think it's more than gradually. Steadily, maybe? Yeah. Okay, now we have a change. So when we have a change in trend, we need to report that. Okay, so what happened here? It dropped back, it fluctuated. Yeah, that's right. Okay, you might want to mention this, which is kind of almost the same, but then it increased again. So we're going to want to pull out this figure. Okay, now let's look at the other one, Australia's share. So how many of these tourists went to Australia? So again, vertical axis, we check. Oh, this time it's percent. So it's not millions, so be careful. And here we have the years. Now, overall, is it up or down? Overall. It fluctuated, but overall, from start to end, it went up, didn't it? Yeah, so also increasing. Now we look at the start. How many percent at the start? 2. And the end, 1995, how many percent at the end? Approximately. Yeah, approximately maybe just under 6%. Now, where is the peak? Which year is the peak? 1994, so it's different. So we're going to have to mention the peak here. So it peaked at 6% in 1995. Which other year do we want to highlight? Yeah, 89 to 90, right? This drop, we want to talk about that as well. Good, so we've pulled out all the important data. So now we can start to write. We better get writing because we've only got 20 minutes. Now, again, for academic task 1, you have 3 jobs. You have to think about the introduction. You have to pull out all the important information and describe with lots of numbers. And then you need this thing called an overview, which we'll talk about. Okay, so the introduction, remember you only have 20 minutes. So the fastest way is to just paraphrase. So rewrite the topic and just change as many words as you can. Don't copy it, because if you copy it, it's not your words. So the charts, the chart and graph show, compare the number of Japanese tourists, the number of Japanese traveling abroad who spent their holidays overseas. So just rewrote the topic. Okay, so yeah, so that's the introduction. So the next thing we do is the overview. So the overview, I'll just read it to you, then we'll talk about it. Overall, despite the relatively small proportion of Japanese tourists coming to Australia, the Japanese tourist market corresponded closely with the growth in Japanese tourism overseas generally, with a trebling of both in the 10-year period. Okay, so in the overview, just describe everything that's happened in 1 or 2 sentences, just the overall trends. Is there any data here? Any actual numbers? Like, you know, 1995 or, yeah, there's not, is there? There's trebling, but we don't know from what to what. So the overview has no actual data in it. It's just the main trends in 1 sentence, 1 or 2 sentences. Okay, so that's the overview. But now the next paragraph, we have to describe everything with lots of numbers, so the examiner could draw it for themselves. They could read what we wrote and draw it. Okay, so let's look at this one first. In 1985, only about 5 million Japanese traveled abroad, after which the number increased steadily. By 1990, the figure had more than doubled to 11 million. Apart from a slight drop the following year to approximately 10 million, the upward trend continued until the end of the period when numbers reached over 15 million. Okay, so all the main points are there. Yeah, and notice that there's lots of numbers. So we don't just say it increased, it decreased. You must say from what to what. Yeah. Also, then we have our next job. Remember, we have a 3rd job, which is to compare. We must have this comparing language. In this first paragraph, there are at least two phrases to compare. One is in the first line. Can you spot the comparing language? Towards the end of the first line. After which, that's right. So this happened after which. We're comparing before and after. Can you see another piece of comparing language in the first paragraph? Yeah, after which, and then, no, in the first paragraph, there's one more. Apart from, yeah, apart from. So this is all language to compare. Other kinds of language to compare: in comparison, in contrast, similarly, yeah, after, before, despite. We're comparing these things. Good. So now we just talk about this one. So when you have 2 different things, it's much, much easier. Just talk about one and talk about the other. If you try to compare across, it gets very messy. So while Australia was the destination for under 2% of Japanese tourists in 1985, this percentage had risen to over 6% by 1994. The proportion grew consistently, apart from a slight fall in 1990, 4.5% to 4%. After reaching its 1994 peak, the percentage declined marginally to 6% in 1995. Yeah, so again, we've mentioned all the important points with lots of numbers. So the examiner could read this and then draw it. Can you see the comparing language? While, yep, while, apart from, exactly. Good, so comparing language again. Great. Now, one more thing I want to point out is the vocab. So notice that instead of increased, we have increased steadily. Then more than doubled. That's a nice way to describe change. Can you spot any other nice phrases to describe the changes? Marginally, yeah, declined marginally, very nice. A slight drop, a slight fall. Yep, exactly. And then what grew consistently? This kind of language is very good in your task 1 academic. Great. Okay, so just to look at the whole thing again, we have the introduction, we just rewrote the topic. Then we have the overview, so we described everything with no numbers. Then we described the first graph with lots of numbers and comparing. And then the second one, lots of numbers and comparing. You do not need a conclusion. Only if you need more words, you could actually do it like a summary, but you don't need that because you have the overview up here. All right. So sometimes you don't get a graph. This is the annoying thing with the academic task 1. You have different things that you have to describe. The intro and the overview combined to one paragraph. Yeah, you can do that because often they say that you shouldn't have a 1-sentence paragraph really, but it's okay. But you know, maybe it's better to combine them. Yeah. Okay. So sometimes you get this, a table. So again, we do the same thing. See, this is the same. Summarize, pull out the main features and compare. The table shows the percentage of students who attended different types of secondary schools between 2000 and 2009. Okay, so what do? We have to, are we talking about the present or the past? Sorry, I'm not going to show the previous slide just because time is getting away from us, sorry. Yeah, past, that's right. So yes, so always check. Now we have to spend a bit of time analyzing this table. What we're looking for are the things that are the same and the things that are different, because we have to work out how we're going to describe. And the easiest way is to put the things that have the same trend together and the things that are different together. Okay, so specialist schools, so we have these 3 years. What happened to specialist school? Up or down? Down, right? But just a tiny bit, just marginally. Grammar schools, what happened? Oh, so we could say it went from 24% to 12%, but what's a more interesting way to describe that? What did it do? 24 to 12, a bit of maths. It didn't double, it went the other way, it halved. Yeah, it halved, that's right. Now volunteer schools, what happened? 52 to 20. Oh, wow, it plummeted. Yeah, you take the reference from 2022, that's right, from now. So that's past, that's right. Yeah, look, it really dropped, it plummeted really, less than half. And community school, what happened? Yes, but it increased hugely, almost 5 times. Yeah, so naturally we will talk about these 3 together because they have the same trend. And community schools is different. So we need to spend a bit of time analyzing, then work out how we're going to group the information. So let's have a look at the model. So again, we rewrite the topic. The table illustrates the percentage of school children attending 4 different types of secondary school. So just rewrite the topic with different words. Now the overview, no numbers. In general, we can see that specialist grammar and voluntary controlled schools experience declines in numbers of pupils, whereas there's a comparing word as well, so that's good. The community schools became the largest providers of secondary school education during the same period. Can you see any numbers there, any data? No, right, because it's the overview. So now we describe in detail. To begin, the proportion in voluntary controlled schools fell from just over half, so that's a more interesting way of saying 52%, isn't it? To only 20% between 2000 to 2009, from 2000 to 2009. Similarly, okay, there's a comparing word. The relative number of children in grammar schools, which was just under a quarter, that's a nice way to say it, dropped by half in the same period. Okay, but so because we actually said what the number was, then we can say it dropped by half. So we know 24 to 12. As for the specialist schools, the relatively small percentage of pupils attending this type of school, which was 12%, also fell, though not significantly, yeah, just 2%. However, comparing word, while the other 3 types of school declined in importance, the opposite was true in the case of community schools. In fact, while only a small minority of 12% were educated in these schools in 2000, this figure increased to well over half of all pupils during the following 9 years. Yeah, so once again, just describing everything that you see. Okay. Good. So sometimes it's not a graph. And then sometimes, can you compare the highest and lowest school attendees on each year? You could compare the highest and lowest on each year, but I think it would be quite messy. Remember, you only have 150 words. It might also be a bit repetitive. You don't want it to be like really, you've got to be careful that it doesn't become boring. So maybe I wouldn't do it that way. I think the structure that is used in the model is the clearest way. Yeah. Okay, so sometimes we get this process. Now don't panic, because process is actually, if you ask me, it's easier to do, because all you have to do, it's different from the graph. You just have to describe everything that you see here. Don't leave anything out. So it's not the main trends here, it's everything. The secret, which is better compared based on the years or the schools? I think in that one we just looked at, it's easier to do it based on the schools. Because if you do it based on the years, you have to talk about all the 4 schools for each year, and it gets very messy. Do it the cleanest, simplest way. That's just my opinion. You could do it that way if you want to, but I think it could be messy. Okay, now back to the process. So with the process, yeah, the secret is you have to, you see it goes step by step by step. So you have to describe each step. Yeah, now the secret, the trick is that you don't want it to be boring. So a lot of people tend to say, and then, and then, and then. So we need different ways to say, and then. Can you think of some different ways to say the next step? So that's one, the next step. After that, yep. Following this, yeah, exactly. Yeah, subsequently. So you've got to think of different ways to talk about each step. All right, so how do we do the process? First, same as ever, just read. The diagram shows process by which bricks are manufactured in the building industry. So this part's the same, summarize, pull out the main features, compare. And now we have to understand. So you need to look at everything and understand what's going on. Okay, so here we've got a digger, digs up the clay. Then it goes to this metal grid. Yeah, so the clay goes through the metal grid onto a roller. Sand and water are added. Then 2 options, the wire cutter can make bricks, or it goes in a mold to make bricks. Then the bricks go in the drying oven, 24 to 48 hours. What's another way we could say that? Instead of just copying. So you need to mention everything, but we want to try to say it in a slightly, not always just copying. 1 to 2 days, exactly. Then it goes in the kiln, moderate temperature, and then a high temperature, and then cooling chamber again, 2 to 3 days. Then the bricks are packaged. So in the process, we use a lot of passive. So we say are packaged. Then you're not copying the word exactly. It's a good thing. So are packaged, are delivered. You've changed the form. So that's a good thing to do. All right, so once we understand what's going on, then we can write. How do we do the overview? Easy. You just count how many steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Approximately is a good word to use. So there are approximately 7 steps, beginning with digging up the clay and then culminating in delivering the bricks. Yeah, you could also say the different parts of the process. So, preparing the materials, making the bricks, and drying and packaging, something like that. You can also group it for the overview if you want to. Yeah, if you say approximately, then you can say 6 steps, 7 steps, it doesn't matter, as long as you use approximately. All right, so here's a model. The diagram outlines how bricks are manufactured from extraction of raw clay to the eventual delivery of finished bricks in the building industry. So just rewrite the topic. The process involves clearly defined steps. This one has put the overview at the end. You can do that. I prefer it second. But if you want to, you can put it at the end. So let's just look at the overview. Overall, the brick making process comprises 7 steps. These steps involve different processes, namely refining and forming the clay, drying the clay, and firing the bricks. Yeah, so you can kind of group it a little bit if you want. So then we describe each step. First, the raw clay is extracted from a quarry by a large digger. The clay is then refined by separating larger pieces from smaller ones using a metal grid. So we just go through like that. So I won't read the whole thing. Yeah, so process is actually not that hard to do. I think it's easier, honestly. Okay, so just some overall tips. You have to hit 150 words, okay? So you need to make sure that you have 150 words minimum. Of course, if you can write like 20 more words or 10 more words, that's great. You must have that overview with no numbers, then pull out all the important information and describe with lots of numbers. Yeah, lots of data. And don't just say it increased, it fell. From what to what? Don't forget to compare. So after which, apart from, in comparison, in contrast, similarly, while, whereas, all of these are good comparing words. And these comparing words often become your linkers as well. And so we do need paragraphs. So usually in Task 1 Academic, there are maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs. Now, checking for mistakes, I'll talk more about that later. All right, so some common things that people forget in Task 1 Academic. They just say, you know, it increased, it decreased. No, don't do that. You'll get a low mark. Yeah, sometimes they try to say why, like, oh, the community schools are growing really fast because everyone are becoming hippies and they want to have, you know, like, you know, they want to have a lot of herbal experiences at the school. No, 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 no. Never say why. Just describe what you see. Never, never interpret, okay? And you don't have to describe, okay, process, you have to describe everything. But for the graph, you don't have to describe everything, just the trends, so only when it changes. And you must have the overview always, and usually second. Okay. So that's your Task 1 Academic. Can we do the little review quiz? Yes. So Task 1 Academic takes a little while to learn how to do because, you know, you have these different things that you have to do. You don't know whether you're going to have a graph or a chart or what. Yeah, but so as I said before, look at models. It's a really good way to learn. And also take your time at first. Don't try to rush in 20 minutes. So maybe take 30 minutes and then speed up. Okay, so I'll let this run just a little bit longer. And then we're going to move on and talk about the essay because that's more important. Right. Okay, I might just end the poll just because of timing. All right, so which should you not include? Yeah, do not interpret. You need the overview, you need the introduction, you need all the data. Do not say why, just describe what you see. Should you cover every piece of data on the chart or graph? No, that's right, just the trends and where it changes. Do you need a conclusion? Yeah, this is optional actually. If you want a conclusion, you can add it. But because you have the overview, you don't need a conclusion. Yeah, so you don't have to have a conclusion in Task 1 Academic. Okay, good, great. So there's a question here. Sometimes when I write the first part of the essay, I tend to write less than the minimum amount of words. I've covered all the points. Okay, so there's 2 questions. Maps. All right, so maps I'm not going to talk about here. Maps for Task 1 Academic, they don't come up as often. That's first of all. When it's maps, the secret is to look. Usually you have 2 maps. One is before and one is after. So look for the things that are still the same and the things that have changed, and then group the information that way. But maps are like process. You have to mention everything. Also with maps, check is there a compass like north, south, east, west? If they include that, then you should use that like in the northeast corner, in the south, you know, southwest. But if there's no compass, then you just have to use words like top right, bottom left, things like that. Yeah, but map doesn't come up a lot. Yeah. So in the essay, minimum, you must hit the minimum. You cannot get a good score if you don't hit the minimum, because they give you that minimum because they feel that that's what you need to have the right amount of information. So you must hit your minimum. Yeah. Overview. Yeah, the overview, you just have to pull out the main trends. So remember I asked you those questions, is it overall going up, overall going down? That's like the main trends. Yeah. So they're the things that you have to look at. What is happening overall? Like if you hold it very far away and look at it, what's the main trend? Or if it's a process, what are the main things that are there? Like how many stages and what are the main stages? So, I mean, if you really find it difficult, have a look at models and see how they've done it. Okay, let's move on because I want to talk about the essay. Now, the essay is worth 66%, okay? So it's much more important than task 1. We're going to talk about academic and general together because even though the topics are different, the method that we use is the same. Okay, so let's get into the essay. Now, how many words do you have to write minimum and how long do you have? 250. And how long do you have to do it? 40 minutes, okay? So this is what we should really focus on in the test. Okay, minimum 250, so you can write more. So let's just review what the examiner's looking at. Task response, did you answer the question? Did you stay on the topic? Did you think of good reasons and examples? Cohesion and coherence, you must have paragraphs in your essay, often 4 or 5 paragraphs. Linking words are important. Vocab, so we want for the essay more formal vocab, not like, you know, I don't know, things like hubby or stuff like that, but more formal language. Spelling, again, matters. Your grammar, we want these more complex sentences, correct grammar, and the punctuation as well. Okay, so when we see the essay topics, they're usually in 2 parts. There's the topic and your instructions. So really important that we follow the instructions. So here's an example. International tourism has brought enormous benefit to many places. At the same time, there is concern about its impact on local inhabitants and the environment. So this is the topic. What is it about? International tourism. It's brought good things and concerns. Yeah, so that's our topic. Now down here are the instructions. So this is what we have to do in this essay. We must follow these carefully. Do the disadvantages of international tourism outweigh the advantages? So that's our job. Do the disadvantages outweigh the advantages? Okay, let's look at another topic. So that's your topic at the top, and they're your instructions. Here's another one. In many countries, very few young people follow the news. So that's our topic. So young people not following the news. What do you think are the causes of this? What can you suggest to encourage more young people to follow the news? Okay, so how many things do we have to do in this essay? How many instructions or questions do we have? 2, right? Yeah. So our 2 jobs are why? What are the causes? Why aren't young people following the news? And our second job is suggestions. Yeah, so we always just follow the instructions. We always just do what the essay tells us to do. Don't do anything else. Okay, every single essay, we must do this as well. Reasons and examples. So we have to think of reasons and we have to think of examples. So the examples can be from our own knowledge or they can be from our life. So it is a good idea, and I sound like a big nag, but start following the news. Very easy, just get BBC app, Guardian app, Voice of America app, any of those, just so you know what's going on in the world. Channel News Asia, if you want to be from Singapore. Yeah, start following the news. So it gives you ideas for examples. And we've got to hit the 250 words. Okay, so sometimes people don't follow instructions. They don't know how to follow instructions. So be really careful. So remember this topic, in many countries, very few young people follow the news. What are the causes? What can you suggest? Now, what is wrong with this? It is not true that people avoid reading newspapers or watching the news on television. In my country, most people do endeavor to find out about the news. Why do I believe this is so? Because I see newspapers everywhere, so there must be demand for such publications. There's something wrong with this in terms of following the instructions. What is wrong? What is this person doing here? If you really want to ask a rhetorical question, and I don't really like it, but it's not wrong. It's just a strange thing to do. But if you really want to do that, it's okay. Yeah, giving, thank you, Sandra. The person is giving their opinion here. It's not true. In the instructions up here, did they ask, what is your opinion? Do you agree or disagree? No, they didn't ask for your opinion. So unless they ask for your opinion, do not give your opinion. It will pull your score down. The secret with IELTS essay is to follow the instructions. And this one didn't. Okay, so be very careful. Just do what it tells you to do. Yeah, okay, so I really love this slide. So feel free to take a screenshot. The thing about IELTS is the topics change quite a lot. So there are several common topics. Things like education, environment, what else? Entertainment, health, transport, urbanization, pollution, that's like environment. What else? Our culture. Yeah, all of these things come up quite a lot. Living, like houses and flats, things like that. But although the topics change, the type of question, the instructions, there are several main types. And when you know the instructions, it helps to give you your structure. The structure is really important, to have a nice, clear structure with nice, clear paragraphs. So this slide is really helpful with that. You don't have to follow this structure, but this structure is very clear. Yeah, so sometimes you have this kind of question. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? So this is opinion. So this is a good structure. You have your introduction, you have your reasons why you agree, another reason why you agree, maybe you consider the other side, and then you have a conclusion. So that's a nice, clear structure. Another type of essay, discuss both views and give your own opinion. So here we've got the introduction. We talk about the first view, talk about the second view, give your opinion, conclusion. Very clear. So this is like the one we talked about with the news and the suggestions. Why is it so? Give reasons for this and solutions. So introduction, give reason why it's so, another reason, solutions, conclusion. Nice and clear. And here's that international tourism one. Disadvantages outweigh advantages. So we introduce and we say our position, or I think there are more advantages. Then if we say more advantages, we give more advantages, but we also consider the disadvantages, but fewer. Conclusion. Yeah. So why is this so? Effect on individual and society. So why is it so? So introduction, then why is it so? Effect on individual, society, conclusion. Okay, having very clear paragraphs is really important under your cohesion and coherence. In agree, disagree, can you say a bit of both? Yes, of course, you can sit on the fence. You can say, you know, I neither agree or disagree. But then you should have equal number of reasons, like 3 and 3 or 2 and 2, that kind of thing. Okay, so this slide is really helpful. So let's look at another type. This was one of those types. Discuss both these views and give your own opinion. So how many things do we do in this type of essay? This one comes up a lot for both general and academic, very common. Yes, we have to do 3 things. So we have to first now work out what are the views. So let's read the topic. Some people think wild animals should not be kept in zoos. So that's view 1. View 1 is always with some, yeah? Others believe that there are good reasons for having zoos. So that's view 2. Others. So some people think, oh, zoos are bad. Wild animals, not in zoos. Others, no, zoos there can be good reason. And then the third thing is your opinion. What do you actually think? And maybe it's a bit of both. Often you can have a bit of both for your opinion. Okay, so let's have a look at the structure, because remember this part, it will always give you your structure. So in the introduction, I'll show you what to put in the introduction, but you can state your opinion, but don't give any reasons. You can just state your opinion if you want to. View 1, you talk about view 1, wild animals should not be kept in zoos. You have to think of reasons and examples. View 2, good reasons for having zoos, reasons and examples. Then you have to give your opinion with your reasons why, and then the conclusion. Okay, so let's have a look at a model here. This is a band 7. So band 7 means good. And in IELTS writing, getting a band 7 is good. It's hard to get a really high score with writing. So a band 7 is a good score. Now, if you look at it carefully, you will see that it's not perfect. And that's why it's a band 7. It's not a band 9. Now, one of the strengths of this essay is that the structure is very clear. So there's introduction, view 1, except this one they reversed it. So there are many good reasons for having zoos. They talked about view 2 first. That's okay. As long as you have this topic sentence that says what the paragraph is about. There are many good reasons for having zoos. And then you give the reasons. Okay, then however, many people feel wild animals should be free. So this is the other view, actually view 1. Both views put forward valid points. However, I strongly believe. So this is the opinion with reasons and the conclusion, summing up. So this is a nice, clear structure. Now, another part with cohesion and coherence, apart from the structure, we also have to think about linking words to make it flow. Yeah, so this is a band 7, so it has some good linking words. So it has at present, it has an and is a linking word, and it has this them. Why does it have them? I believe wild creatures should not be kept in zoos and there should be alternative ways to see them. So this is a good thing to do. What is them referring to? Yeah, wild creatures. So instead of repeating wild creatures again, that would be a bit boring. So using them, a pronoun, that's a good thing to do. There's a question, could we start writing following paragraphs from the same distance? Yeah, a modern block style is that you don't indent, you just write like this, but with a nice clear line in between. However, if you want to indent, you like that, then you can also indent, no problem. Okay, introduction, we will talk about what to put in the introduction in a minute. I'll come to that. Okay, so just looking at these linking words. So most importantly, they, so again, a pronoun, unless, and for example, remember I have to give examples, therefore, so all these linking words are good. However, because, also, however, in conclusion, although. Yeah, so all these nice linking words to make it flow. All right, so sometimes there's a different kind of topic, this one. To what extent do you agree or disagree with the statement? So this is asking for our opinion. Yeah, so let's see what we're dealing with. Some people say that living in a house is much better than living in an apartment. Yeah, so this is our topic. House is better than apartment. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? Yeah, so this word extent is important if you see it. If you have extent there, you need to say how much. So it's like, it's not just agree or disagree, it's how much. So I strongly agree, I partially agree, I mostly agree, I strongly disagree. Yeah, you can totally if you want to, but I don't really prefer totally agree. But if you really want to, you can. Yeah, so Gomit, there's spelling mistakes in the model essay. Yeah, that's right. That's why it didn't get a higher score than a 7. There are quite a lot of spelling mistakes. Yeah, so I want to ask you, so this topic says house is better than apartment. So what do you think? What's your position? So when you get an opinion essay, you need to work out your position. So how much do you agree or disagree? So just tell me in the chat. Okay, so be careful with completely agree, because I believe there are always, if you completely or totally agree, you have to have really good reasons. Yeah, so tell me how much. You mostly agree, strongly agree, partially agree. So Nada says partially. Okay, strongly, good. Okay, great. So when it's extent like this, you have to get your position. Okay, so let's have a look at the model. So we have our introduction, and then we put our position. So whatever you said was your position, strongly, partially, you put it in the introduction. Then if you said you strongly agree, you have to think of your reasons and examples, why you agree. Then it's always good to think about the other side. Yeah, so I believe it makes a stronger essay if you at least have one reason on the other side. Yeah, it just shows that you can argue both sides. And then the conclusion. Yeah, so the next step, so someone was asking about writing an outline. There is no time for that. You can do something like this if you want to, a structure. And I really encourage you to brainstorm. So think of your reasons before you write, and write them on your scrap paper, which you have even if you do computer delivered. Okay, so you tell me, a lot of you said that you agree that living in a house is better than an apartment. Why? Can you tell me in the chat? So someone said, if you have a family, it's better to live in a house. Yeah, it's bigger. Well, not always. Some apartments are very big. No monthly fees. Okay, so someone's saying, can they add advantages and disadvantages? Did it tell you to talk about advantages and disadvantages? No, right? So don't add anything. Just do what it tells you to do. You don't need to use a lift. You have a yard. Yeah, the cost of an apartment is expensive. No noise. Yeah, less noisy in a house. Yeah, all of these are good reasons. Okay, good. So you need to brainstorm your reasons, usually 3. Yeah. Okay, so let me show you another model. This is a higher level model. So this one is maybe at least a band 8, maybe even higher. Okay, so we start with the introduction. What do you write? So mostly you'll say a general statement about the topic and your position. For this type of essay, everyone wants to live in comfort. Some people find independent houses more convenient. Others prefer modern day apartments. Okay, so that's just basically paraphrasing the topic. Now the position, I disagree that living in a house is more advantageous than living in an apartment. So this person disagrees. Good, so they put the position. So now they have to give their reasons. To start with, we are moving towards the culture of nuclear families where most adults work. Life is more stressful than ever and people have less time on hand. Given these circumstances, it is much easier to manage an apartment. So that's the first reason. Apartment is easier to manage. Remember, we have to give examples. For instance, most apartments have housekeeping facilities that take care of all the cleaning and maintenance, which we would have to manage ourselves if we lived in a house. So that's the first reason why apartments are better. Additionally, so here's a linking word introducing the next reason. Apartments are usually gated communities, so they're a lot more secure. To exemplify an example, remember you have to give examples. Most apartments would have some sort of access cards for residents and stickers to identify their vehicles. Any visitors or guests have to go through security. We'll seek approval from residents. Overall, security parameters are better than one can afford in a house. Furthermore, third reason with a linker, apartments have common facilities like recreational play areas for kids, swimming pools, clubhouses, and so on. One does not have to travel outside. This results in a lot of time saving. So sometimes you don't have to say, for example, you can just expand on what you mean. Okay, now the next paragraph, the person considers the other side. However, living in an independent house does have its own advantages. They are certainly more spacious and owners can freely utilize and modify the space based on their convenience, which is hard to achieve in an apartment. Okay, so they're at least considering the other side. Conclusion, just summing up all the points. To conclude, apartments and houses have their set of pros and cons. However, I believe apartments satisfy the needs of our modern lifestyle better than independent houses. Yeah, so can you see how it's done? Yeah, okay, so that's a very nice, clear structure with very good reasons and examples. Yeah, okay, so let's look at one more. So every year, thousands of students go overseas to study. Although many benefit from the experience, others go home disappointed. What are the benefits and drawbacks of studying in another country? Okay, so here is our topic. Many students go overseas to study. Some have a good time, some have a bad time. Now, how many things do we have to do in this essay? 2, yeah, the benefits and the drawbacks. Quite a straightforward essay. This is more of a general topic. Okay, so we think about our structure. So we'll have the introduction. I'll tell you what to put in the introduction. Then we think about the benefits. So we think of the reasons, the different benefits and examples. We think about the drawbacks, reasons and examples, and conclusion. So very straightforward essay. So now we need to brainstorm. Okay, so this essay, we don't need a concession paragraph because this essay didn't ask us for our opinion. It didn't say, do you agree or disagree? It just said, talk about benefits and drawbacks. So that's all we do. Yeah, okay, so let's think about what are the benefits of studying in another country? Why is that good? So we always have to train ourselves to brainstorm. Usually 3 reasons is good, 3. New experience, international exposure, self-management like independence, yep, new cultures, expand horizons, more network, great, all great reasons. Let's think about drawbacks. What are the drawbacks of studying overseas? Homesick, expensive, culture shock. Yep, yep, okay, great. Socializing, yeah, too much socializing, disconnected, yep, all very good. So mine are similar. And all of yours are great as well. These are ones I thought of. Exposure to other cultures, more independence, networking, drawbacks, culture shock, discrimination, distractions, which someone said like socializing, too much socializing. Okay, so now we think about our writing. So we've got our reasons, we can start writing. So introduction, we have to introduce the topic and sometimes we have to give our position if it's opinion essay, but this one is not opinion. So we don't have to. Each paragraph needs the topic sentence, what the paragraph is about. Then you give your reason and example. And then in the conclusion in IELTS is quite straightforward. We just summarize the essay, all the points. So the introduction, one way you can do it is literally change the words, paraphrase. So every year, annually, thousands of students, a vast number of students, go overseas, venture abroad. So literally changing the words. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to say kind of a general statement about the topic. These days, it often seems that almost every new graduate, every second new graduate attained their qualification abroad. Many of these students find the study experience rewarding, but some are less satisfied. Yeah, so it's not such a direct paraphrase, just a general statement. So each paragraph needs that topic sentence, reason, and example. So remember our brainstorm? So I just take the reasons from the brainstorm. So first I have my topic sentence telling the examiner what the paragraph is about. Studying abroad offers students a number of benefits. Okay, so this paragraph's about benefits. Firstly, here's a linking word. It facilitates exposure to new cultures. That was my first reason. And then I have to expand. So I can say, for example, but sometimes I just expand on it. Students can immerse themselves in the lifestyle and traditions of their host country and may also have the opportunity to discover the worldviews and cultural practices of fellow students from across the globe. So that's the first reason. Second reason, in addition, being alone in an unfamiliar place and having to solve issues of day-to-day living can foster a strong sense of resilience and independence. That's the second reason. For example, so here's an example, negotiating rent, transport, and food will teach a young person valuable life skills. So just a brief example to support my reason. Then you could have a third reason, but just because of time, I just had 2 reasons here. Now we have to consider the drawbacks, right? So here's my topic sentence saying what the paragraph is about. Conversely, there can be several drawbacks to venturing abroad to study. So it's about drawbacks. One of these could be confronting sense of culture shock. Remember, that was one of my reasons that may arise if a student finds themselves in a place with very different values. For example, if a young person has grown up in a relatively conservative or rural environment, studying in a liberal cosmopolitan city may be extremely jarring and negatively impact their ability to study. Further to this, second reason, dynamic environment in a foreign location might lead to a range of distractions for an impressionable student. Nightlife, Other young people and relative anonymity found in the city may be irresistible and again may have an adverse effect on the students' academic pursuits. So they're the drawbacks. Now, conclusion, we just kind of summarize all the points in one paragraph. In conclusion, opting to complete tertiary studies abroad can offer increased exposure to other cultures and opportunities to develop a great sense of independence. However, cannot be denied that overseas study can lead to culture shock, too many distractions. Each person needs to consider their own temperament and circumstances before making this life-changing choice. Okay, so just summarizing all the points. So that's kind of how you do the essay, yeah? So really following the instructions very carefully. Now, there are two things we haven't really talked about yet that the examiners are also looking at, and one is your vocab. And so we have to think about the spelling and the choice of words. We don't want to use informal language or slang. It's a bit more formal. Yeah, and we have to use correct words if you want 7 or more, correct, but also this collocation. So what is that? Let's come back to this essay that got 7. Remember this one? So 7, as I said before, 7's a good score in the writing. And there's some nice collocation. Collocation means words that sound nice together in English. So for example, alternative ways sounds good together. Educational importance, natural habitat, rare species. Now it also got 7 because there are some more unusual words in the essay. Precious, cruel, endangered, underestimate. These are all a bit less common kinds of words. Yeah, so we have to think about that if you want a 7. And then when it comes to grammar, remember we want the more complex structures. So you could have this sentence, these 2 sentences. Global warming is a phenomenon. It is caused by increased carbon emissions. Those 2 sentences are, the grammar is fine. But when you combine them, it sounds better. Global warming is a phenomenon caused by increased carbon emissions. It's a more complex sentence. So that's what we want. Now, avoiding your mistakes. This is what I wanted to talk about. So what I suggest you do, if your grammar is not the best, like some people just don't have good grammar, what I suggest you do is write an essay, show it to someone who has really good grammar, and get them to correct all your mistakes. You will start to see your common errors, things that you do. And then in the test, you can quickly check for those common mistakes that maybe you often make. Yeah, so, okay. So this essay that we looked at before, there are quite a lot of spelling mistakes, but I'm not actually thinking about spelling here. There are also quite a few grammar mistakes, which are very common grammar mistakes. So I'm wondering if you can spot any of them. There's this mistake in the first sentence, actually, which is a very common mistake. So if you can spot a mistake, tell me which paragraph and which line and correct it. How do you think of using Grammarly? Grammarly is fine, but you can't use it in the test. So if you want to use Grammarly to check your work, yeah, that's fine. Sure, why not? Yeah, believe is a spelling mistake. Can you spot the grammar mistake in the first sentence? Yes, wild animals are kept in zoos all over, not our world, all over the world. Yeah, so this is one of the mistakes that is missing. So I'll go through some of the common mistakes. So in this essay, this person is not very good with their what we call articles. So that is a and the. So in English, when a word is singular, like world, usually we have to have a or the in front. So the world, because there's only one world, so the world. The city, that specific city. A chance, so one of many chances. The Chinese panda, because there's only that's one specific type. So if it's specific, it's the. If it's just general, it's a. Yeah, so be careful with a and the. Another common mistake here, wild animals in their country, not at their country, what we call prepositions. Now, plurals, frequently seen news story. It's not just one story, stories. This is another common mistake. So it's good to find out if you do this as well. This one is really common because they is not in natural habitat. Okay, so there's something missing here, there, but they are. The subject is they, so it has to be plural. So be really careful with this subject-verb agreement. It's a common mistake. So it's really good to get to know your common mistakes so you can quickly look for them in the test. Okay, so some overall reminders. If you're doing paper-based, okay, if you do computer delivered, there is a word count. You don't need to count the words. If you do paper-based, should you count words? No. Instead, work out how many words you do on one line and work out how many lines you need to do. Don't waste your time counting words. But paper-based, you can draw all over the question paper and make your plan and brainstorm like that. Also, you don't have to squish it into one piece of paper. If you need more paper, just ask for another sheet. It's no problem. If you have very big writing, for example. But there's no time to write an outline or a draft. It's only 40 minutes. There's only time to quickly do your structure and think about your brainstorm. Try not to copy the topic. Remember, we have to paraphrase. Yeah, so with our reasons, they should be specific, like the ones you were giving me were good. But they shouldn't be too detailed, like drawback of studying overseas. I can't buy my favorite peanut butter. That's like too specific, not like that. Okay, and try not to tell stories. Your example should just illustrate your reason. So that, remember I said the example about having to pay your rent or bills, that increases independence. That's a good example. But you don't tell a long story like, when I went to England, I was so lonely and I just sat in my room and I cried all day, but then I became very independent because I learned to rely on myself. But don't tell a long story like that because it's not that kind of essay. It's like more like an argumentative essay. Okay, so just to remember, analyze the question. How many things do you have to do? Think about your structure. How many paragraphs? Do your brainstorm. Yeah, think of your reasons and examples. Don't forget linkers. Check your spelling and your vocab. Try to use more complex sentences and don't forget your full stops, capital letters, commas, all those things. Okay, so just to sum up, remember the essay is worth 66%. Yeah, so we want to spend more time on the essay and just get your task one done quickly and move on. So always analyze the question and work out exactly what you have to do and then brainstorm. Think about your paragraphs, each paragraph, so it's very clear what each paragraph is about. Gradually, slowly, you need to build up your vocabulary and think about your grammar. Yeah, and linking words, of course, are important. If you run out of time, don't use notes or bullets in any of the writing tests. We must write the whole thing in full sentences or you'll lose marks. Yeah, and checking, leaving a couple of minutes at the end to look for your common mistakes. Okay, so when you register to do your IELTS with IDP, you get access to a lot of resources from IELTS Essentials, including their website. They have a Facebook community, practice tests, they have a blog with tips and videos. You can also go to the IDP website for your country, and there are a lot of resources there as well. And of course, check out the official IELTS website as well. I just shared it in the chat, ielts.org. There are lots of resources there as well. Okay. So good, we've got plenty of time for questions now. Yeah, so thanks for like all your interaction and all your questions as we went through, but we have time for more questions now. I see a couple of questions in the Q&A box. Is it okay if you don't write a conclusion in task 1? Oh, sorry, I forgot about the review for the essay. Yeah, please see if you can do this quick review. So is it okay if you don't write a conclusion to task 1? Yeah, you don't need to do a conclusion to task 1 academic. You don't need a conclusion. Yeah, because you've got the overview, as long as you have the overview. I'm going to have general test. Yeah, the general test, we talked about the letter. That's the general task 1. We talked about that at the start. And then the essay, everything I said for the essay is the same for academic and general. It's just the topics. So that one we talked about drawbacks and benefits of studying, that's like a general topic. Yeah, so that's totally relevant. Okay, good. So let's have a look at the poll. Let me have a look. You write exactly 250 words. No, you can write more. That's the minimum. Yeah, but you don't need to write 500 words. That's too long and you'll run out of time. Should you count each word? So like I said, no, just work out how many words you do on a line and then work out how many lines for paper-based. Computer delivered, there's a word count. If you run out of time, you can write in point form. No, don't write point form. If you run out of time, you just have to finish. Yeah. But practice so that you learn how to manage your time and you won't run out of time. Okay, great. So I'm just going to stop share and we can have some questions. I see quite a few questions in the chat. Let me just quickly go through those. Short, no, I've done that one. Okay, how can I prepare IELTS in a structure in 20 days? So that's a tricky question. Depends what band score you are now and what band score you need. Yeah, but what I suggest is that try to do something every day, like maybe an hour, and mix it up. So do a bit of listening and then a bit of speaking. Next day, do a bit of reading and a bit of writing. But then maybe like 10 days before the test, then really start doing whole tests, practice tests. But that's not a lot of time, 20 days, but depending on what band score you need. What's the best way to improve your writing? Like everything, boring answer, practice and write. Yeah, so, and then look at lots of models. The models will help you get used to the style. How much punctuation and writing errors well, they don't go by how many errors, like they don't count. It's just overall how many errors, and punctuation comes within grammar. So it's overall how much does it affect the understanding. So I can't really answer specifically like, oh, 3 errors means you lose a band. It's not like that. What books do I recommend? If you go to the IELTS website, there are many Cambridge IELTS textbooks to help you with your writing. Yeah, so probably one of those would be good. You can also look at the past papers. That's also very good. If you could cover, is it appropriate to write over 400 words? You can do that, but you don't need to, and I'm scared it will affect your task 1. Also, the more words you write, the more likely there'll be mistakes, right? So I wouldn't write that much. Maybe 300 words is fine, like 50 extra words. You don't need to write such a long essay. How do you know the word count in task 2 easily? So on the computer, you have a word count. On the paper-based, just count how many words you do on a line and then work out how many lines you'll need to do to hit 250. Is it possible to get band 6 even if you don't meet the minimum words? It's difficult because they give you that minimum because they feel you need that many words to give a good answer. So please meet the minimum. How long to improve from writing band 7 to higher? It's really hard for me to answer that because it depends how much time you have, how you're going to do it. If you need to improve fast, I suggest you work with a tutor so you can really focus on your work. Yeah, okay, great. So I think maybe we can have some live questions if there's time.
All right, thank you so much, Jackie.
Sure.
Before we begin with the live Q&A, just for information to those who are taking their IELTS on computer or who are still undecided if you will take an IELTS on computer or paper, please stay with us after the Q&A and we will play some video tutorials for you when you are taking an IELTS on computer and also some information about IELTS online. All right. So let's begin with the Q&A, live Q&A. Just raise your hand and then we will allow you to unmute your mic. Let's begin with Justin Kine. Hi, Justin. You may now unmute your mic. All right.
Hello, good evening. Hi. No, gone. Hello.
I think he or she's not ready.
Okay. No.
Okay, let's proceed with the next one. Ferry Angriawan. Hi, Ferry.
Hi, thank you.
Hi,
Can you hear
Ferry.
me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for taking my questions. Actually, I have some questions for you. My first question is, actually, you have explained before that 150 words is a must, but do the examiners really count our words that we have written in writing test? I mean that is it really intolerated whether if we have we write only 145 words?
Oh, okay. That much. If it's just a couple of words less, it will be okay. Yeah, but yeah. So I mean, if it's just like 3 words or something, it won't really hurt. But the reason that they give that number is because they feel that unless you write that much, your answer cannot be complete. So you won't really get a good score. Yeah, but
Okay.
if it's just a few under, yeah, don't have to get so obsessed about it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. My next question is, can we get the hard copy for the passage in computer base?
Sorry, the hard copy?
Yeah, for the passage, the test, the question, I mean.
The questions, no, for computer delivered, it's all on, you don't get a hard copy. Yeah, it's all online. So that's why if you don't read well on a computer screen, try not to do the computer delivered. Yeah, everything's on the screen. Yeah.
One more question, please. You said before that an academic writing test that we have a more complex structure and reading passage. It means we have to prepare ourselves. I mean, we have to enrich our knowledge about academic or scientific problems.
No. Okay, so it just means no. So the questions, you mean for the essay questions, they won't, no, you don't need to study up on science or academic topics. It's just that the questions, like, remember the one about to what extent about, what was that? Or the one about the tourism, do the disadvantages outweigh the advantages? That question is a bit more complex. That's more like an academic question. But you don't have to study, like, you don't have to, it's not about your facts. Remember, it's an English test, so it's about how you use English. But it is good to follow the news so that at least you know what's going on in the world, so you can use all the things that are happening in the world as examples. Because the topics are often connected to things that are happening in the world, like environment, education, transport, health, crime, you know, all those kinds of things. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Ferry. Now let's proceed to Thảo Zin Tant.
Hi, good evening.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I have 3 questions. First, my question is especially the question is like do you have to extend your agree statement in the question? So I think this question is related to my professions or maybe. So I have a lot of the information of plenty. I add a lot of information and the body paragraphs. So I think it will be these lots of words. So I think it will be the impress or the boring for the examiners to read, so to check their essays in the text too.
I think the most important thing is not just about using lots of words. It's making sure your reasons and examples support the topic. Yeah, so you don't have to write, like I told you, you don't have to write a long example. It's better to have more reasons. So maybe 3 reasons and 3 nice, clear examples rather than 1 reason and a long example. Yeah, so
Thank you.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
better
it's-
to do it that way.
Yeah, thank you. And my second question is, especially we have a lot of the question is not the similar, so maybe, and if we have like the brainstorming, it will be not unrelated, so it will be the out of the lines with the question. So if I was to wrote the question is out of the line, how we can check the
like
our examples, maybe
If it's
our
on, if
topic
you're,
statement. Yeah.
you mean, how can you check if you stay on the topic? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, because if we have a lot of the brainstorming in the writing session, so we can be our topic standards, or maybe it will be the out of the margins or out of the questions. So how we can be checked, it will be the out of the line or not.
It's a hard question to answer. So okay, maybe what you can do is if you're practicing writing and you brainstorm and you think of your ideas and you write, then have a look at them. See if you can find some model essays, ones that are considered very good, and see if your reasons are similar to those reasons. Is that what you mean, that if you stay on the topic?
Yeah, because especially like the other question is like, it will be a little bit difficult for me to brainstorm, and it will be the miss the outlines, or it will be the changes the ideas, or maybe something.
Yeah, so be careful though. You don't want to go off the topic, because people do lose marks when they go off the topic.
And my last question, sorry, I have lots of questions.
No
My
worries.
question is, sometimes it's like the introduction is just a little bit, we have 3 or 4 sentences in the introduction, but in the conclusion, we have to summarize things. So to summarize our information and ideas, so it will be more longer than the conclusion is more longer than the information. So introductions, so it can be good or bad.
Oh, it
not.
doesn't matter. It's okay. I mean, your conclusion doesn't have to be that long, but yeah, if it's a bit longer, it's okay. No worries. That's not a problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks for your question.
Thank you. Now let's move on to Ati Satya Arifin. Hi, Ati Satya. You may now unmute your
Hi,
mic.
good evening.
All right.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. I'm Tia from Jakarta. Oh, actually, I just I mean, like the host said that the question has been answered live, but if you don't mind asking again, I'm still a bit confused about repetition words and memorize in writing tasks. So I check on the answer sheets, and then below there, and then you can see the column for the examiners to check our writing, and then there are some like memorized and repetition. So what do you consider memorizing writing, and what's the
Okay,
maximum for repetitive words?
Oh, well, once again, it doesn't really go like that. It's not like they count words, but okay, so memorize is like, sometimes people, they have amazing memory, but maybe their English is not very good. So they can memorize a whole essay and they just write it, but maybe it's not really answering the question. Or maybe part of the essay is not very good English, then suddenly that it's fantastic for a little bit, like wow, and then it's very bad again. So that would indicate to the examiner that maybe that part is memorized.
Oh, I see. So you mean like it's like an inconsistency in
Yes,
the candidate's writing? Oh, okay,
Exactly.
right.
And then in terms of repeating the words, I mean, throughout the whole of IELTS, a lot of it's about synonyms. So if you keep repeating the same word from the topic, for example, I mean, a couple of times or 2 or 3 times is fine. But if you can try to use use synonyms for, so if it was secondary school, so instead of saying secondary school over and over and over, if you could just say, I don't know, like different ways, like college or post-primary, or just different ways of saying the same thing. Not all the time, but just try to vary it. That's all. And also because nowadays with computer-based, some people just copy and paste the same words all the way through their essay. But that's not going to get you a very good score, because it's the same words over and over again. Yeah, so variety is the spice of life in IELTS.
Okay, thank you, Jackie.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Now let's move to Babik Makvana. Hi, Babik. Hi, Babik. Are you there? Okay, maybe we can move on to the next one. Can we have Vung Tran Huyn Kok?
Yeah, can you hear me clearly?
Hello. Hi.
Oh,
good
I'm sorry.
evening. Oh,
I'm sorry. Babik first.
okay. Hi.
Hi, Babik. I can't hear anything. Is it Babik or Vung? And never mind. Let's mute first Babik. Give me a second. Okay. Hi, Vung. Please unmute your mic now. All right.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi.
Yeah, I have a question for you. Do I have to mention all the things that the task mentioned? I mean, there is a topic that some people believe that it is best to accept a bad situation, such as unsatisfactory job or shortage of money. Others argue that blah, blah, blah. So do I have to mention to write about an unsatisfactory job or shortage of money, or just write about a bad situation? Yeah.
Such as a shortage. I think you need to kind of mention it a little bit. Yeah. Usually they want you to refer to those things in the topic. Yeah. Yeah, but is that an actual past paper, or is that just something?
I see it on the Cambridge 14.
Okay, then it's a real past question. Yeah. So probably they want you to at least refer to those. Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, so good question.
Okay, now we have, can we have Mariam Satarnejad? Hi, Mariam.
Hi, good evening. I think you're very soft.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't hear you.
We can't hear you, sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, very difficult to hear you.
I don't know what's wrong with my speaker. Sorry. Give me a second. Is it okay now?
Not really.
Same.
Very quiet.
Still the same, yeah.
Like you're very far away.
Can I ask my question?
All right.
Sounds better. Yeah,
Better.
please go ahead.
Thanks, God. I wonder in which paragraphs in task 2 writing should we express our own ideas? What do you think about the question?
It really depends if they ask you that. So remember I said it's all about following the instructions. So if it says, do you agree or disagree, or give your opinion, then you can have one paragraph where you do that. But if the question does not ask for your opinion, if it says like, what are the problems, what are the solutions, then you don't give your opinion.
So when it is needed, in which paragraphs should we write? I mean, in conclusion, both in conclusion and introduction.
Well, it really depends. So with IELTS, there's no real rule as long as it's clear. So you can give your opinion in the introduction if you want to. You can say, I agree with this or whatever, but don't give any reasons in the introduction. Save your reasons for the paragraph where you talk about your opinion. In the like discuss both views and give your opinion, that type of essay, your opinion can be the conclusion. If you have enough words, you don't need it, and you don't need a separate conclusion, then you can make your opinion paragraph the conclusion. Yeah, that's okay.
Thanks for valuable instruction.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for your question.
Thanks, Mariam. Are you okay with one more question, Jackie?
Yeah, sure. No worries.
All right. So can we have Muhammad Iksan Amadi Tanjung?
Yes, you okay?
Hi, good evening.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. Please
Yes,
go
loud
ahead.
and clear.
Okay. I got a question. It's about opinion essay.
Mhm,
Okay, it's about agree and disagree.
mhm.
Actually, sometimes I'm a bit confused with this paragraph because I have asked many friends about this. Okay, this is about is that okay if we make multiple idea paragraph in opinion essay, or just one single idea but we give more elaboration?
For each paragraph.
For opinion essay, like agree and disagree.
So, I mean, it's okay. So I actually didn't say this earlier. I forgot. So in IELTS, try not to let your paragraphs be too long. So if your paragraph is more than 8 lines, that's getting too long. So you could put, like, just say you agree. Just say that your position is that you agree. You could put 2 reasons in one paragraph. It's fine, and in examples, as long as your paragraph doesn't get too long. Then maybe you can make another paragraph with a 3rd reason. Yeah. So it's fine. I mean, you can put more than 1 reason in a paragraph. Yeah, as long as you're arguing the same point, you're arguing the same side. Just say you're agreeing. You could put 2 reasons in one paragraph, just as long as your paragraph isn't too long.
Is that okay if we make like the proposal essay, like firstly, secondly? I mean, like I make the idea like that.
You can, but just be careful it's not too repetitive. Yeah, I mean, you can use, it's good to use linking words like that. Yeah, but some people like firstly, secondly, thirdly, fourthly. That gets a bit boring. You know, like try to mix it up. So you could maybe firstly, secondly, in addition, on top of that, you know, try to use a range of words.
Okay. But it means that it's okay actually in one paragraph. Okay. Because
you can, but just make sure your paragraph doesn't get too long. That's all. It's
okay.
fine. It's fine. If you look at models, you'll see they do that.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Sure, my pleasure.
Thank you, Muhammad. All right. Okay, that's all for today. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us and for staying with us. So any final word or final advice from you, Jackie?
Oh, no. Thank you so much, everyone, for your great questions and for staying with me this evening. And as always, thanks to the wonderful team. And I want to wish everyone in Indonesia happy Independence Day. Woohoo! And I look forward to seeing you online the next time. And I really wish you all the very best with your IELTS journey. I know it's not easy, and I admire you all so much for all your great questions. And I can tell you're all doing a lot of work. So I really hope that you all get the score that you need and that your IELTS dreams can come true. So take care. Best wishes, everybody.
Lilith, just one question from the attendance here. She said her mic didn't work, so she asked if we can help. So she asked, any last minute main tips for task 2, especially for those taking the test this Saturday?
Oh, sorry, Jackie.
It's okay. This question comes up a lot. So, you know, that's really quite soon. It's like 3 days. So for your task, what I would do is, you know, try to do a few practice essays and really think about analyzing the question. Think about your structure and brainstorming, because right now it's a bit late to work on your vocab and your grammar, but you can work on answering the question, thinking of good reasons and examples, having a nice clear structure, making sure you answer the question well. So focus on that if your test is this Saturday.
Great. Yep. So yeah, I think that's all for now. So as I've shared earlier, for those who are taking IELTS on computer, please stay with us. I think I saw someone like asking how to use the computer. Please show some example. So please stay with us. And then thank you so much, New and Patrick, once again, for your wonderful support today, for answering all the questions in the Q&A and the chat box. You guys are awesome. All right. Good night, everyone. And yeah, let me just share my screen for our IELTS on computer tips. And yeah, let me just share my screen for our IELTS on computer tips.
Miss Lilith, there's no sound.
At the top of the screen, which tells you how much time you have left. For the reading and writing tests, the clock will turn red and flash when you have 10 and 5 minutes left. The tests will automatically stop when the time finishes. You can use the navigation bar at the bottom of the screen to move from one question to the next. Click on the number to go to that question. You can also click on the forward arrow to go to the next question, or the back arrow to go to the previous question. When you have answered the question, a line will appear under that question in the navigation bar. You can click on Review if you want to look at the question again later. The question number will be shown as a circle. You can review and change your answers at any time until the end of the test. Click on the yellow arrow if you want to make the navigation bar smaller. You can use the scroll bar to see all the questions. In each of the tests, you can change the screen settings. To do this, click on the Settings tab at the top of the screen. You can change the size and colour of the text. In each of the tests, there is a Help tab. If you click on the Help tab, this will give you information about the task you are currently doing. If you click on Test Help, you will see information about how the test works. If you wish, you can also highlight sections of text. If you need to leave the test room for a few minutes, you can hide your screen by clicking on the Hide tab. When you return to the test room, click on the Resume Test button. That is the end of the introduction tutorial for computer-delivered IELTS. Check out the IDP IELTS YouTube channel for tutorial videos for listening, reading and writing. For the listening test, you can change the volume by using the volume bar in the top right at any time during the test. For each part of the listening test, you will hear the recording once only. Some parts of the test have more than one type of question. Each type of question has its own instructions. In the listening test, listen carefully for the part number and question numbers to make sure you are looking at the right screen. For some questions, you need to write your answer in the gap. For some questions, you need to choose which diagram label, A, B, C, etc., is correct for which item listed in the table. For each question, click on the correct space in the table. For some questions, you need to click on an answer and move it into the gap. If you want to change an answer, move another answer into the gap.
Options, the wire cutter.
If you want to leave the question unanswered, move the question back. And for some questions, you need to move an answer into a gap on a diagram. At the end of the listening test, you'll have 2 minutes to check all of your answers. The tests will automatically stop when the time finishes. In the reading test, the text appears on the left and the questions on the right. To see all the text and the questions, you'll need to use both scroll bars. For some questions, you need to choose an answer. If you want to change your answer, click on a new answer. If you want to leave a question unanswered, click on the answer again. To look at the next question, just click on the question itself. For some questions, you need to choose more than one answer. If you want to change any of your answers, click on the answer you want to change and then click on your new answer. If you want to leave any of the questions unanswered, click on the answer again. For some questions in the reading test, you need to choose which paragraph or section contains the information listed in the table. Remember to scroll to read all the text. For each question, click on the correct space in the table. If you want to change an answer, click on your new answer. If you want to leave the question unanswered, click on the answer again. For some questions in the reading test, you need to click on a heading for a paragraph or section and move it into the gap. If you want to change your answer, move another heading into the gap. If you want to leave the question unanswered, move the heading back. And for some questions, you need to write your answer on a gap in a diagram. If you wish, you can also highlight sections of text. To do this, left-click and drag your cursor over the section of text or question you wish to highlight. Then right-click and select the highlight option. To remove highlighting from the text, right-click on the highlighted area and select Clear. If you wish to remove all highlighting from the screen, right-click on a highlighted area and select Clear All. You can also make notes on a section of text. To do this, left-click and drag the cursor over the section of text or question you want to make notes about. Then right-click and select the Notes option. Your chosen section of text will be highlighted and a yellow notepad will appear. You can write your notes on this. Click on the cross in the notepad to hide your notes. To see your notes again, click on the highlighted section of text. If you want to see which areas of highlighted text have notes, move the cursor slowly over each area of highlighted text. If a small orange box appears, it means that the highlighted text contains notes. To remove notes from text or questions, right-click on the highlighted area and select Clear. There are two parts to the writing test. Part 1 and Part 2. You can answer the parts in either order. You write your answer in the space on the right of the screen. Your answers are saved automatically. You do not need to press Enter on your keyboard. For the reading and writing tests, the clock will turn red and flash when you have 10 and 5 minutes left.
Welcome to the IELTS online listening test tutorial. You can change the volume at any time using the control in the bottom right of the screen. Click on the speaker icon and use the slider to make the sound louder or quieter. For each part of the listening test, you will hear the recording once only. You will not be able to pause or stop the recording once you begin. You will have time to read the questions before you listen. To see all the questions, you may need to use the scroll bar. Some parts of the test have more than one type of question. Each type of question has its own instructions. Listen carefully for the part number and question numbers to make sure you are looking at the right part of the test. For some questions, you need to write your answer in the gap. For some questions, you need to choose an answer. For some questions, you need to choose more than one answer. For some questions, you need to click on the correct space in a table. For some questions, you need to click on an answer and move it into the gap. You can also highlight text and make notes. See how to do this in the quick guide to the IELTS online listening, reading, and writing tests video. At the end of the listening test, you'll have 2 minutes to check all of your answers. The test will automatically stop when the time finishes. Welcome to the IELTS online academic reading test tutorial. In the reading test, the text appears on the left and the questions on the right. To see all the text and the questions, you will need to use both scroll bars. You can change the size of the two parts of the screen. Each part of the test has more than one type of question. Each type of question has its own instructions. For some questions, you need to write your answer in the gap. For some questions, you need to choose an answer. For some questions, you need to choose more than one answer. For some questions, you need to click on the correct space in a table. For some questions, you need to click on an answer and move it into the gap. You can also highlight text and make notes. See how to do this in the quick guide to the IELTS online listening, reading, and writing tests video. The test will automatically stop when the time finishes. Welcome to the IELTS online academic writing test tutorial. There are two parts to the writing test, Part 1 and Part 2. To see all of Part 1, you may need to use the scroll bar. You can change the size of the two parts of the screen. You can answer the parts in either order. Write your answer in the space on the right of the screen. Your answers are saved automatically. You can also highlight text and make notes. See how to do this in the quick guide to the IELTS online listening, reading, and writing tests video. The test will automatically stop when the time finishes.